This is Jane Natalie, and I am talking about what to do with the worksheets that we have always relied on. This is going to be a little bit longer than I initially planned because this is a passionate topic for me. A common practice we have for students of all ages is some kind of daily language practice. We see this in warm-ups, bell ringers, as we get into English classes or elementary school classes. And they typically have some of the objects that I've listed here on this screen: identifying nouns and verbs, capital letters, fixing grammar mistakes. Um, the problem with this is that students, as we know, don't often transfer their ability to find and fix other people's mistakes to their own writing. So I am going to do two things today. First, I'm going to show you how to turn a typical worksheet practicing these skills into an interactive Google slide, and then I'm going to present an alternate sequence to practice the language in the context of writing. So the first thing that you want to do is really get to know the basic progression of skills that are around your grade level. So that's something we've been talking about in addressing amplified learning loss as a result of COVID, but it is also just good practice always that our students are not always in the exact same space as in a skill progression. So knowing what the grade level below and the grade level above is expecting from students is helpful in our own planning. So I have here just the writing standards and the language standards next to each other, and you can see how we can practice these language skills inside authentic writing pieces. Especially in the lower grades, it is pretty straightforward. So state an opinion of a book you just read, my favorite part of the book, my favorite character, I liked this or I didn't like this. You can certainly go back and edit that for printing letters correctly, using a question word if you want to prompt the student to ask a question about the topic you're talking about. As you get into first grade, you can most certainly make sure they're using end punctuation, following spelling patterns, all within responding to reading through writing. So keep that in mind as we go forward. Now to actually practice a skill. So I have some basic sentences here and our, tried and true, circle the noun, underline the verb. You can use the shapes to make a circle for yourself, and then you are going to turn it transparent. I like to make the border of the shape a little thicker and change the color just so that you can really see the shape there. I already have these made. So clearly the students can circle the nouns and box the verbs up in these sentences. You can do that, make it a little drag and drop area so the students always know what to look for. You can also do this with color words and shape words. So I've made some cards here, and they can sort what is a shape word versus what is a color word. For younger students, they can match, square with the square. To make these, I just use the same shape rectangle. I'll do it over here so you can see that. And then you can make it transparent or any color that you want and make the border a little thicker. And then over here, this is a relatively new feature in Google Slides. You can change what the border looks like in terms of dashes or solid lines. So I think this is something that's really helpful, especially in that drag and drop sequence. Again, I have the same thing with colors and the same thing with punctuation. So we have our punctuation marks and they can practice what type of sentence is this? Is this a question sentence or is it an exciting sentence? And I like if you notice in the last few examples, there's the same number of objects as there are answers, and that's just a little self-correcting tool so that the students know, how many they have to find. Here it's a one-to-one correspondence. A couple of the other questions that were in those language practice worksheets was common spellings. So you can do, a drag and drop into the box. And then I've added a check your answer box over that so that they can see if they're right or wrong. This is especially helpful when you are not with the students and they are doing this asynchronously. They can check and it's just one other extra step for the teacher to do, but it goes a long way. I've also created the proper order of words in the sentence so they can drag the words into the sentence and then they can use the keyboard to type in the sentence again and put in that capital letter and punctuation. A quick note on adding text boxes. So if I add a blank text box here, you notice that the type is automatically pretty small. So I always, when I'm doing this for students, go in and change the font to a larger size, and sometimes I even change the color for them so that when they start typing, it's big enough for them to see. And then, like I did this one, I used a little dotted line. You can also shade in the text box so that they know where to type, and a little type here always goes a long way for them, and adding a border so that they know where that text box is, and then they can click and type their answer in. You can do 4 to a page or however many you want to a page. This really would mimic that daily practice, and then it's just a little bit smaller on the page and they can type in, find the noun, and then fix the mistakes. And then you could make one of these a day and have it done for the week. So those are all of the actual construction of the practice, the explicit practice of these skills. What I would really like to see in person or online is these skills being practiced in context. So I've made, and this might be something fun for students as well, I've made a little scene. Girl is running with her dog, chasing the soccer ball, and then they mess up the game. So there's the boys playing soccer, the girl running through the soccer field, and the dog stole the ball. So the students can describe what they see in this scene. I'll make another video to show you how I made this scene using free clip art. You can also simply just go to Google and image search kids, playing soccer and find images and use any images that you find in order to have students have a writing prompt. You can also give them options. They can find their own, and then they can type a story here. The boys were playing soccer, the dog stole the ball. And then from here, whatever skill you are focusing on, you can give them a little lesson page. They can correct. This one's a little crowded, but you get the point. We're focusing on capital letters and periods, and then they can fix the mistakes in the practice one, and then go back and look at their own story. Of course, I forgot to make mistakes to show you how that would work, but you get the point. And then you can also have practice with punctuation marks. And again, I put in a self-correcting, so the dog is sleeping. I'm going to add the period there. And then I am going to drag the box away to see if I'm right or wrong for each of the questions. And then again, the student can go back and practice with their own writing. So something like this would make the grammar practice more authentic, and I highly recommend that. I am going to show you one more trick that I use when I am making these kinds of word cards that I am dragging and dropping, because they can be a little problematic for students, and I think if it's not too hard for the teachers, the adults, to take one extra step, it's worth it to make it easier for students. So the trouble with dragging and dropping text boxes is Google Slides wasn't made for this purpose. The original intention was to put everything in present mode and make a slideshow. But now that we're trying to do interactive slides like this, if I click on a text box here, I'll add a border here so you can see what I'm talking about. If I click on the text box in this white space, then I can drag it and drop it no problem. And you see the cursor has changed to the arrows to move it. But as would be typical, if I'm being told I want to move the word example, when I click on the actual word, Google Slides thinks I want to edit this text box, not move it. So you see with a simple click, it starts to allow me to type in it, and then it doesn't allow me to drag and drop it. So this can be really frustrating for students, especially young students, especially if they're using a trackpad or they have any fine motor issues. So you can either make sure you have a lot of this white space and teach them how to click in it. Highlighting the background a color might be helpful, and you can say click on the color and drag it. That's one way to troubleshoot that. The other way is to use Google Drawings. So you're just going to go to any folder you want to store your materials in, go to that plus sign, more, Google Drawings, create and share, and you are going to use this to create your example word. So I'm going to just type in example, make it nice and big, put a border around the text box. I'm going to put it in the center. And then another little trick is when you go to this alignment thing, these three options will put it in the center of the text box like that. And then when you click on the background, you see that it has this resize tool. So you're going to resize it. Don't worry that it's big. You want to resize it as close to the border as you can so there's not a lot of white space. And then you are going to download that as a PNG or a JPEG. The JPEG will put a white border around it, which I want right now. The PNG will leave the box transparent. And then you can drag that into your slide, and you can see even when I click on the example, it's not going to click inside the text box because this is now an image. If this was helpful, I have made image cards of all the punctuation marks, shape and color names, and I'm continuing to create some of these materials inside my Facebook group, which you can find at facebook.com/JaneNatalieCoaching. If this was helpful, please join me there. Have a great day.